In this video, I discuss my views on the Harvard Business Review's report, 3 Tips to a Smooth Transition in Retirement. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
Harvard Business Review, or HBR, as it's often referred to, is a publication that puts out information from some of the best minds in the world, frankly. But some of the content can be quite long and, frankly, academically interesting, but not useful to the everyday person looking for quick, actionable steps to make their lives better. So when I ran across content called 3 Tips to a Smooth Transition in Retirement from HBR, I was intrigued. Had Harvard Business Review finally put out a tips article like Quora or Reddit or BuzzFeed? Since I have a subscription to Harvard Business Review, I went to the website to find out. As it turns out, there are 32,418 publications on HBR, of which over 300 have the word tips in the title. So a full 1% of everything they publish is in the tip format. Had I missed something? Well, the answer is that the paper version, the one that I get in the mail, has lengthy articles, and the digital version has shorter articles. When I use the screening tool on the HBR website to screen out the published articles that have the word tip in them, we go from 343 articles down to 17 out of 6,208 articles published in the paper magazine. With the mystery solved, let's get into the data. And remember, if you need tips from Harvard Business Review, check the website with the digital-only articles, not the paper ones. The article starts with an assumption that many people know deep inside but don't really want to admit. That is, while many people hated the stress, rigor, and constant demands of being in the workforce, now that they're retired, they also miss the action of those same elements. To counter this, HBR suggests 3 things. The first is invest in personal relationships. If you set aside the assumption that people need some sort of connection to their old business life when they enter retirement and just focus in on the single most crucial element, that crucial element would be that they need personal connections, people that they interact with on a day-to-day basis to make their lives better. They had it when they were working, and oftentimes when they go into retirement, they don't have it anymore. And while they don't get into a lot of detail about this, let me tell you what I think this means. First, in retirement, you have a set of friends that you've made over 10, 20, 30, 40 years or more, depending on when you retire, of course, that you may have lost contact with. Now is a great time to reconnect with old friends. These are people that you have no animosity towards. They aren't coworkers that tried to cheat you on a promotion or some other business element. These are people that you just lost contact with. Why not go and send an email, look them up on Facebook, contact them via a mutual friend, something to reconnect with them. The second element is to cultivate new friendships. When you retire, you have a lot more in common with a lot of people than you did when you were working. And conversely, those that you were working with, you don't necessarily have much in common with anymore. So for me, what this means is to join clubs and groups and find people that you have common ground with, even if it's not business common ground. But frankly, when you're in retirement, that's okay. The next is to volunteer your time. Now, there's a reason people volunteer their time in retirement. Yes, giving back to the community after 40 years of the community being so good to them is one reason, but the other is that it allows them to build connections that they didn't have before with things that they care about. Whether it's helping out at the local food bank, spending time on issues that you care about and you want to push forward, or just finding people that are like you, the act of volunteering goes a long way to bridging the gap that we're talking about. Next, stay connected with family or reconnect with family if you have an estranged situation. Let me explain. I was speaking with someone, I guess it was yesterday, about their newfound friendship with their sibling. And this is someone that, frankly, had a long period of time where they didn't talk. But as they got further on in life, they realized that the issues that they dealt with weren't really issues that one caused the other. They just happened to be in the same proximity to each other when they happened. Because of this, things went from bad to worse, and they lost contact. As they've matured and become more at one with themselves, I suppose is the best way to describe it, they realized that they should spend time together and get to know each other again, and they both are quite delighted that they're doing this. At the same time, there are things that you can do when you have more time that you couldn't do when you were working. You can be a different type of parent, for example, particularly when your children are adults and they no longer need you for financial support, which is not primarily, but one of the big things that people give when their kids are growing up, funding their growth. Now that the kids are out of the house and they've launched, so to speak, they often need advice and they need the wisdom of mom and dad. By the way, I'm personally seeing that the wisdom that mom and dad provide is a lot more impactful the older the children get, because they themselves are facing into some of the same issues, adult issues, that we faced into when we were going through that period of time in our lives. And of course, the same thing holds true with grandchildren. With the benefit of hindsight, the mistakes, if you want to call them those, that we made as parents become a lesson learned for the children themselves, for their children. By the way, when I say that out loud, I think it's important to note that most of the time, parents try to do their best with the information that they have, but they're not given an owner's manual, so sometimes they make mistakes, at least in hindsight. And so having those mistakes in front of them, or frankly in the rearview mirror now when it comes to their own children and advice to their own children, goes a long way to, number one, solving the mistakes for the next generation, and two, not being too hard on yourself because you did the best that you could with the information that you had at the time. The next is embracing technology. Now, for the vast majority of people who are watching this video, you lived before and after the advent of the personal computer. That would have been in the early 90s, frankly, for most of you. And that's when dial-up existed, when AOL was the primary way to communicate with each other. That was the social media of the time. And so therefore, AOL was the thing that people wanted to get close to. They had their own AOL email account. They read articles on AOL, and that was kind of what was available. But social media and media in general has moved on since then. Platforms like Facebook and Instagram can help you stay connected to family and friends. However, there's a dark side to social media, and you need to be supremely aware of it. When you engage in too much social media, you get sucked in. Now, I will say that there are different platforms that have different sucking in levels. If you're on YouTube, it's a great platform overall because you can learn a lot, you can get entertained, and you aren't caught in this constant cycle of clicking on the next article, which is linked to the article you're reading, to learn more and learn more and learn more. It's a different type of platform. But if you get into the platforms where you go in at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you come out at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, well, you know that you've probably gone too far. There is another aspect, and that's video calls. Think about the last time you talked to a friend on the phone. It is great to talk to an old friend on the phone. It's even better to see them on a video call. It's even better to see them still, but video calls bring you a lot closer to face-to-face interaction, even if you can't pay for the plane ticket to go see them at that point in time, or you don't have the time anyway. The next point is to focus on your health and well-being in a very social way. There are national health club chains. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to advertise for them, but there are national health club chains, and these chains tend to have fairly consistent programming on different workout classes, and they're good classes. I go to one myself. What I found is that the same people are in the class time and time again, and you get to know them, you get to know the instructor, and you form a bond that you didn't have before. And who knows what could happen with those bonds. They could be friends, they could be more than friends, but getting connected is step one to any relationship. The second point that Harvard Business Review suggests is creating a network beyond the office. A real network is intentional for the most part, and there are a lot of books on how to build networks. Maybe I'll do a book review on one at some point because there's one in particular that's excellent. But building a network outside of the office allows you to work your group of contacts with intent. But first, you need to develop your post-work network. Here's what I would recommend. First, join clubs or organizations that you're interested in. We talked about this a little bit before, but this can be a great source of non-personal relationships as well, to get things done, because that's what networks are for, to get things done. Start with things that interest you, like a book club, a sports team affiliation, or even a political organization, if you're brave enough to do that in this day and age. This can be a great way to meet new people with similar passions. Next, stay involved in the professional associations and clubs that you were involved with before, or join them if you're leaving the industry and you want to stay connected to what you were doing before. Pursue continuing education. There's nothing better than having a side gig, I guess is the current term, but basically something that is of interest to you that you do when you're in retirement that isn't necessarily something you need for the bills, but of course it's nice to have extra funds. Learning something new not only keeps your mind sharp, but it also introduces you to people who are equally eager to learn. Next, online learning communities. Now, online learning communities can be a wonderful thing because it brings together like-minded people and you can learn from each other and connect with each other. The only issue I have with an online learning community, frankly, is that if it's a substitute for an in-face learning opportunity, most people are far better off doing the face-to-face just for social reasons, if nothing else. Next, attend cultural events. Cultural events like an art gallery opening or a wine tasting, for example, again, bring like-minded people together. Now, I used 2 of 10,000 examples, but you can imagine that someone who goes to an art gallery is going to be a particular type of person, and they will network with other people of their same ilk. The same thing is true with a wine tasting. However, I could just as easily have said attend a auto show, a antique automobile show, for example, or a Tesla meetup, or a Ferrari meetup if you have the funds for a Ferrari. The point is that each of these attracts a particular type of person, not good or bad, but someone more like you. And of course, when you are around others like yourself, you tend to enjoy their company more. Opposites don't necessarily really attract in real life. Consider the networking opportunities when you travel or you join a travel group, particularly for retirees. A group of travelers that travels to, say, mainland China to see the Great Wall is different than a group of travelers that goes to Nashville to see Nashville. I like both, by the way, just to be completely clear. Engage in the community, particularly local government and government activities. Next, mentor and be willing to be mentored. By mentoring someone else, you're engaging with someone who's younger, generally speaking, who has an interest in what you've done. I've been a mentor to literally dozens and dozens of people in my life, and I can tell you it's one of the most fulfilling aspects of my business and personal life. The reason is that when you mentor someone, it's not just a transaction like many other things. It's a relationship. It's a business relationship, or it's some sort of relationship outside of a normal friendship that you have with someone. And the mentor-mentee relationship is one of the most powerful types of relationships in the world, really. And frankly, if it's someone in your field, it keeps you involved in your field, which is equally as beneficial to someone who is trying to stay attached to the game if they don't want to be deep in the game. In the same regard, consider a reverse mentorship. These same people that you are mentoring have skills that you don't have, from basic technology to advanced technology to a new way of thinking. Being able to unthink or unlearn what you learned before and relearn it the new way or the most current way is often the difference between success and failure in life. The third tip from HBR is finding new retirement-friendly business outlets outside of your career. Let me explain. Staying engaged in your previous career, at least on the fringes, if nothing else, is a way to generate additional income, at the same time not have the stress and pressure that you had when you were fully in the game. This could involve advising companies, mentoring individuals, which we talked about a minute ago, or providing your services as a consultant rather than as an employee. And of course, along the same lines, if you didn't want to go that avenue, you could certainly freelance. There are a lot of for-fee outlets like Upwork, for example, or Fiverr, which will allow you to provide your services for a fee And when the job is done, it's done. Next, explore a new industry or passion. Start a new business. If you wanted to own a bed and breakfast, for example, now would be a really good time to do that. Or if you wanted to create a product that you have always thought would be the perfect product for the world, but you just didn't have the time, well, now you do. And if you wanted to stay in the game, but you just don't want to do what you did before, consider investing in a franchise. There are a lot of turnkey opportunities that will allow you to basically pay the fee and jump in and have a pre-made business plan and, frankly, a business in many cases where you just start operating the business. Many franchises are well suited for retirees because they have a proven business model and you can direct your capital to something that you're interested in today, as opposed to 30 or 40 years ago when you got in the old line of business, whatever that may be. And there are a lot of people, more than you know, that are really successful in business, but they have a creative offset and they just can't or haven't shown it. The most common, by the way, is someone who wants to write or publish a book. This is a good time to do so because you have the time. And a really, really good business-friendly retirement outlet is teaching or educating. In fact, there can be a lot of money in teaching and educating outside of actually teaching and educating. Let me explain. When you look at the vast majority of books that are published by academics, these are people that make a lot more outside of the college or university that they teach at than they do in the salary that they receive from the college. And for those that don't want to step out of the workforce but want to step up in the workforce when you retire, consider a board membership. There are a lot of boards that need people like you with your experience. They're just waiting for you to contact them and get connected. And if you don't want to just volunteer your time, you want to take it up to the next level, consider starting a nonprofit yourself on something that you're particularly passionate about. For me, for example, I'm very passionate about adult literacy. You'll see on the wall, for example, a book that I wrote called The Busy Adult's Guide to Making College Happen. That book was to help people who are working full-time get a college degree at night, usually while working full-time. By the way, for those of you who don't know, that's how I got my undergraduate degree and my MBA from the Kellogg Business School, by the way. By considering the points that I just talked about, an expansion of the report itself, you can potentially have a very fulfilling post-business career, business life in retirement if you want to stay connected. If you like this video, check out that video, 10 cheap purchases that make retirement so much better. And don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time I post a video. I post once or twice a week. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.